Hello, my lovely literature students. Welcome back to another exciting literature class. Today's class, we're going to be looking at a very interesting poem titled Raiders of the Treasure Trove by Lade Wosornu. Raiders of the Treasure Trove by Lade Wosornu. Behavioral objectives. During the course of this lesson, we'll be learning the background of the poet and the background of the poem. We're going to be understanding the subject matter of the poem or the summary. We're going to be looking at the poetic devices employed in the poem as well as the poet's use of imagery and symbolism in the poem. Now, this is Lade Wosornu. Lade Wosornu. We're going to be looking at the background of the poet. Professor Lade Wosornu is a prominent figure in the Ghanaian literary and academic landscape. His passion in life is to seek a closer work with God. He is a professor of surgery, an essayist, a poet, a columnist, and a philanthropist. He is a very wonderful and prolific literary writer. He is very good with his poems, and his poems are always geared towards bringing people closer to God, seeking a life with God, void of anything unnatural. That is the poet. Now, let's look at the background and setting of the poem. The raider represents human beings. Every human being enters the world with the sole aim of unearthing their destiny. This destiny is the treasure trove. From the poem, we can see that there are two concepts which will enable every human being achieve or lose this. These concepts are love and rage. He identified rage as a weakness in human beings which have caustic power to limit humans' journey in life. Anger can spoil anything humans have planned to do. Anger can make you say things you don't want to say. In rage, you can make certain decisions that can mar you or make you, irrespective. Now, let us look at this. Before we proceed, we have to understand the meaning of a treasure trove. A treasure trove means valuables like gold, silver in the form of money, plate, or bullion of unknown ownership found hidden underground or in places such as cellars or attics, like the treasures they find in pirate raids. Pirates dig out treasures and take back to their ships. These treasures are usually called treasure troves. The poet uses this title to depict man's pursuit for life treasures or values of life. Raiders of the treasure trove. The men are raiders. They are looking for life treasures, the treasure trove. Now, let's read the poem. Let us look at the poem, The Raider of the Treasure Trove. But what can be worthy of your life? What's dearer than the germs of your dreams? The reason you are here. Always strive to fly flags of joy and sail up streams, powered by the breeze of love, your course, chartered in the ink of compassion, and fling roses wherever you pause, heavens and earth your destination. Of things which could blot out that brief or breach your sail with arrow unseen. No, rob you of your life. Rage is chief. Rage drags rags after you, of charity, enemy of equanimity. Rage spreads toxic fumes on every scene. In essence, rage spells calamity. It so-calls your perception of storms. As you think, so you feel. Watch your mind. Rage sets sail. Can ruin lag far behind? I'll fling roses wherever I birth. My destination is heaven on earth. Now that's the poem, The Raider of the Treasure Trove by Lade Wosornu. For the purpose of analysis of this lovely poem, we're going to be dividing this beautiful poem into 4 major parts to analyze it. Are you ready? Our first part is man's pursuit for happiness. Man's pursuit for happiness. Here we see that the poet emphasizes the emotions that must drive the dreams of any life worth living. We need joy to live well. We need love. We need to be loved, and we need to love people. And then we need to show compassion, and people need to show us compassion. These are the things that make your life worth living. Part 2. Rage is the worst enemy of man's desire for fulfillment and happiness. In the second part of the radar of the treasure trove, the poet calls for a rejection of all tendencies that undermines one's happiness here on earth. He's calling out on things that will take that happiness away from you. And one important thing, rage, anger, or hatred, they only serve to deprive you of the things you need. They are like raiders. Rage is like a raider. He comes and takes and leaves you without anything. That's what the poet is trying to tell us here. It will steal the laughter, the peace, the calmness, the sweetness, and all the light from you. It will take away that peace, and it will settle itself in your heart and your mind and make you very, very unhappy. That's what the poet is trying to tell us, that rage is the worst enemy of man's desire to fulfillment and happiness. Part 3. The source of rage. The source of rage. The only source of rage and any other negative human emotions is how we perceive the challenges that come our way. There are certain challenges that come our way. It's the way we take them. It is the way we perceive them that makes us human, that makes us control our rage, our anger. He also advocates positive thinking in all our life situations. He's trying to tell us that negative emotions like rage can ruin your life, like I said earlier. Rage can make you say things, can make you lose lots of contracts, can make you lose friends. If you allow it to dominate your mind and heart, it would ruin your life. That is what the poet is trying to tell us. And then part 4, conclusion. The conclusion of the poem. The poet is telling us, choose love as he has chosen love. In place of rage, choose love. In place of rage, choose love, so that your own heaven on earth will be realized. That is what the poet is telling us in the concluding part of his poem. Now, let us look at the poetic devices in the poem. Our first poetic device is language. Language. The vocabulary appears simple, but he uses it with more conscious artistry to warn his audience. It looks simple, but the way he used them, he's using it in such a way that he's trying to warn the audience. You can see rage is thief. He's showing us that we must not embrace it, because it is showing us, it's taking away something from us. When you're angry, you make certain decisions that will not favor you. The poem title, Raider of the Treasure Trove, means a person who discovers a valuable treasure or who has a valuable collection. So you see the language style of the poet. And then we're going to be looking at the figures of speech in Raider of the Treasure Trove by Lade Wosornu. The figures of speech. Our first figure of speech is personification. Rage is personified as a chief, a thief, and an enemy, as we can see in lines 11 and 13. Here we can see that this personification shows rage as the powerful monster that can rob you of your life. Rage has the power to take life like human beings do, so it has been personified. Another lovely figure of speech is simile. Rage is compared to different things. It is compared to chief, thief, enemy, storm, as you can see in lines 11, 13, 14, and 17. In line 15, rage assumes a wicked person that spreads toxic radioactive gas to destroy important materials. Rage spreads toxic fumes to every scene. We have personified rage. Biblical allusion. The poet made reference to the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 7, verse 9, which means fools give room for anger. But what can be worthy of your life is a biblical allusion to the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 6, verse 25, which means one should not always be anxious about life. The fourth figure of speech is dramatic monologue. The speaker addresses a silent listener, usually the reader. The person is like a sermon that the preacher delivered on a certain occasion about the consequences of anger. So you can see the use of you and your to mean audience, I to mean speaker. These are examples of dramatic monologue in the poem. Now we're going to be looking at the use of imagery. One can see the visual image of a traveling ship in stanza 1, lines 3 to 5. Always strive to fly flags of joy and sail off streams powered by the breeze of love. It has created an image of a moving ship. Symbolism. The poet uses flying roses and heavens as symbol of a perfect bliss. The rose conveys deep emotions of love, respect, and devotion, which are seen in line 7 to 8. And then another figure of speech we're going to be looking at is rhetorical question. Lines 1 to 3, 17 and 21 are used for the purpose of emphasis. But what can be worthy of life? That is a rhetorical question. What dearer than the germ of your dreams, the reason you are here? Rhetorical question. Its sole cause? Rhetorical question. Rage sets sail. Can ruin lag far behind? Rhetorical questions. Questions that have answers in their own questions. Now, let's move to our evaluation. Comment on the poet's use of euphemism and repetition in the poem. The poet's use of euphemism and repetition in the poem. So, we've come to the end of our lovely class on the poem Raiders of the Treasure Trove by Lade Wosornu. Raiders of the Treasure Trove by Lade Wosornu. Our next class, we're going to be looking at the themes in the lovely poem. So stay tuned and I'll see you in our next class.